Here today to celebrate and praise God for the life of Herb Hogle. We do so as an act of worship in which we give thanks to God for Herb's life and to affirm our sure and certain hope in God's promise of eternal life offered through our risen Lord Jesus Christ, who said, "I am the resurrection and the life. Those who believe in me, even though they die, will live." Please join me in prayer. Almighty God, in the sacred space, comfort us with your sustaining presence and the love that is here to support our every need. Enable us to put our trust in you so that you might transform our grief and our doubt into assurance. Through the one who gives new meaning to our lives, new strength for our weakness, new comfort for our sorrow, and new hope in the presence of our loss. We pray in the name of Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. We invite all who are able to stand and sing "He Knows My Name." The lyrics are in the bulletin insert. might agree that hanging out with her was never a waste of time. Each moment spent was filled with unexpected kindness, spontaneous joy, and laughter. Later in the service, family and friends will come to share their treasured moments with her. I want to focus on two observations: Herb's faith in God and the love given to and received from his church family. Today's scriptures outline the attributes of God's love and confirms that there is no place where God wasn't present in Herb's life. Some of us knew her more intimately than others, but none of us knew all the parts of Herb's story except God, who watched her live his life on the outside and listened to his prayerful inner side. God heard every whispered hope or cry lament, each unfounded fear, and every guilty pleasure. God heard it and seen it all. An artist once told me that long before an artist's paintbrush hits a canvas, they have the ability to visualize a picture before it exists. I believe God, with artistic skill and precision, visualized and created her with purpose and a natural ability to echo God's love throughout his life. On one occasion, Herb shared that family and friends accompanied him throughout his life, but not always and not everywhere. He recounted a time when in the military he traveled alone to regions far from home and unfamiliar. With confidence, he acknowledged that he was never alone, for God was his constant companion. His relationship with God reinforced his belief that God's love is the greatest love of all, meant to be extended to others. Herb lived his faith. My second observation is that Herb and George's relationship to our congregation is one of family, near and dear to our hearts. In fact, they began a marriage right here in this church. Herb was known by many nicknames, but there was one he claimed for himself that our church family quickly embraced. About 20 years ago, Herb was one of our sound technicians. Our youth director, Corey Myers, shared that he and Herb had a strong bond, one akin to a parental relationship. During one vacation Bible school event, Corey asked her to do something with the sound system that was virtually impossible. Corey tells that without hesitation, Herb's response was, "You got it, babe. Leave it to the great and powerful Herb Hogle." He was also known for his kindness, his humor, his wit, along with that welcoming, mischievous smile of his that could cause icebergs to thaw. As the years passed, the love shared between Corey and Herb spilled over onto our youth, who volunteered on service projects at the Hogle home. They weren't just kids to Herb. He took a genuine interest in each one and intentionally listened and talked to them. Herb's love for people didn't stop there. He greeted everyone with respect, love, and a little bit of mischievous humor. I asked why. Her response, because that's what we drink and like to drink at meals. Herb's hands was in everything at church and lovingly touched our lives in the simplest of ways. But it was the relationships built on the foundation of God's love that united us as one body in Christ. Herb's life allows us to see how the words on the pages in the Bible can be translated into everyday life. He lived with faith and leaves behind a legacy of love for us to carry forward. Herb discovered early on a way to blend his gifts and abilities to live his life, loving and serving others. Well done, good and faithful servant. At this time, family and friends are coming to share their stories, followed by a video presentation. Donna will come and share first.
So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Donna. Herb and Jordan's younger daughter, also known as the one from Southern California. At the root of Colleen's reflections is a powerful message that Dad and I talked about often: his faith and his trust in God. You will hear later about a defining moment in Dad's life, kind of like that aha moment you get when something all of a sudden hits you in the head and makes you see things differently. As the song we just sang says, "He knows my name." I started thinking about what name did God know him by? Because Dad had many names, as you just heard. Was it Big Chirp Chirp, Bert, the Great Herbois, the Great Powerful Herbois, Herb, Herbie Joe, Sweetheart, K6HHG, The Godfather, Uncle Herbie, Grandpa, Gramps. Papa Son, Dad, and for me, it was Daddy, and he called me his baby. It was funny, our parents intentionally named Mary and I names that could not be shortened or have a common nickname. Yet through the years, we all seem to end up with multiple names. I'm sure that God knew all his names and the fun stories behind each one. Dad knew where he was going. He told me several times over the last few years, as his health struggles became more and more difficult for him. Quote, "I know where I'm going. I want you all to know I will be fine. I just know it will be really hard on all of you." The first time we talked about it was during one of his hospital stays. I realized in the moment that I needed to write down exactly what he was saying, as Mary and Mom were not with me. He said, quote, and I took this from my notes that day, "I don't fear dying. I'm upset about what it will put the family through. I love you guys more than I can say. You have all been really good to me. When I say goodbye, just know I'm in a better place." We talked about our strong faith, and as believers, how we hold on to the hope we have in heaven, and the thanks to Jesus' ultimate sacrifice, someday we would be reunited. I told him until that day, yes, it will be hard, and yes, we will miss him terribly, but I assured him we would find a way to be okay. As I stand here today, I think about how in those moments he worried about us, those who would be left behind, and the grief we would be faced with when his time came and God welcomed him to his eternal home. No doubt, Dad got to hear that familiar voice, "Welcome, good and faithful servant." As usual, boy, was he right. "Yep, Daddy, This is all really hard, and we do miss you deeply. Each of you are here because you knew my dad. Some know him through his service at this church, which you just heard a little bit about. So for those of you who know him because of church, just raise your hand. Thank you for being here. For those of you who didn't know, this house of worship has been the church home for members of our family for over 100 years. Let that sink in. This is where my grandparents worshiped, my mother, aunt, and cousins attended Sunday school and professed their faith here. This is the very altar where Mom and Dad said their wedding vows. Coming up on June 19th, it would have been 70 years ago. There's a couple of slides that, right here. They spent countless hours serving this congregation in a variety of different ways, including, as you heard, Dad on the soundboard for Saturday services, as well as weddings and memorials like today. He loved being able to use his gifts and knowledge to serve others in times of celebration as well as grief. He also filmed and edited, as you heard, the Singing Christmas Tree here and got it aired as a local PBS TV special. For those who were a part of that, you can attest to the fact it couldn't just be one camera. Nope. 4 cameras and an entire production setup where he called the shots and, of course, had to film all 3 performances just to be sure he had all the right angles he needed for editing. He was also the one who would drop everything if a friend from the church called with a computer problem. He loved serving this church. Some of you here today know him through his service with the California Junior Miss Scholarship Program. Raise your hands. Thank you for being here. Some of you have been neighbors at different times in Mom and Dad's life, including neighbors on Dowling Court or new neighbors and friends at Brookdale Pollen Creek. Those of you, raise your hands. So good to see you all. Maybe you might have known, some here today are members of Dad's precious care team, medical professionals and incredible caregivers that helped him through his health struggles. If you're here today, thank you. You are true angels on earth. Maybe you might have known him through his 36 years he worked at IBM, or maybe the Community Media Center here in Santa Rosa, or in some other way consider him a friend. Probably miscellaneous people, right? And of course, some are immediate and extended family members, which I'm so thankful you all could make it today. Honestly, on the topic of family members, there always seemed to be a very blurred line between family and friends growing up. I remember many aunts and uncles who we later found out were really just friends. But the way that Mom and Dad would welcome people, they were really more like extended family. Even today, we refer to many dear friends as our extra sisters, and they have many adopted grandchildren, including one from Canada and one from the UK. It's just how Mom and Dad made you feel. So today I'm speaking on behalf of my sweet mom, my precious sister Mary, and our entire family. Thank you all for making the time and sacrifice to be here, to honor my dad, and to lift up our family during this difficult time. As the word spread, we have been truly touched by the outpouring of love from so many people who have been deeply impacted by knowing Dad. People have traveled today from northern, central, and southern California, Oregon, Washington, and Texas just to be here today as well as many of you who have told us they're joining online from all across the country. What a testament to the impact my dad has had on people's lives. We're deeply humbled by your presence and your love. If you do happen to be watching online, hi, not sure where the camera is, but thank you. Would you please take a minute and drop a comment or memory of my dad? We would love to know who's joining us from afar. While each of us has our own unique way we knew and loved Dad, one hope is that you will each leave here today finding out something you never knew about him. We've asked a few specific people to briefly share about several areas of his life that will help paint a vibrant picture of the full life Dad lived and the memories he's left us with. The slides and the music that were playing as you walked in are just a fraction of the story, but provide a way to spark conversation and memories. There's no way to take 93 years and condense it to a slideshow and some remembrances and keep this service to a reasonable amount of time. If you missed the slideshow, it will be playing during the reception along with some of Dad's favorite songs. So here is your first Did You Know? Did you know my dad played the banjo? In a hootenanny group with his IBM buddies. Yep, he did that. It was kind of a hidden talent he had, I think. You will notice a very eclectic song selection with the photos. It's safe to say you may hear some random songs from some of his favorite groups back in the day, and they are random. If you spent any time with my dad, you knew he could tell stories. So in true dad fashion, let me share a few. Let's talk about neighbors. When Mom and Dad were first married, they lived in Southern California, and that's where Mary was born. And so the neighbor relationships began. I can honestly tell you, over the last 4 weeks, we have heard from Mom and Dad's neighbors in every place they have lived. Orange, San Jose, Poughkeepsie, New York, Huntington Beach, Morgan Hill, and Santa Rosa. Can you imagine picking up the phone and reliving memories that span almost 70 years with dear friends, just like you're picking up where you left off yesterday? Some of those stories included from our sweet backyard neighbor in San Jose, where we lived almost 60 years ago. We heard, quote, "Little Chirp Chirp would like to send much love to Mama Georgia and both of you and your families for the loss of Big Chirp Chirp. Although I was little, I always had such warm feelings of comfort and happiness when I was spending time with Herb and all of you. I remember the gate in the fence between our 2 yards. I also recall how he would make me laugh and toss me high in the air. As a young child, I believed we were all one big family. Although the years in our busy lives have kept us apart, I will always believe that and will miss Herb dearly." Yep, we did actually have a gate in our backyard fence, so we could go back and forth. And yes, the Matsumoto family were and always will be family. From our neighbor in New York, she remembered Dad reading Sesame Street books to her Dad reading Sesame Street books to her in a Grover voice. Now, for those of you who were part of the Grover era, let's put this in perspective. This was over 50 years ago, long before Grover was a thing. And then from our neighbor in Huntington Beach, "Our family has loved you since the day we met in 1972. You were the neighbors who were always ready to lend a hand. You helped us build a gate and plant a tree. You cared for our pets and even babysat. You helped us get through college and set up my first classroom as a teacher. Together, you set the standard for marriage and family, and you deserve the gold medal for friendship. There was always a welcome sign at the Hogle Hotel when we would come to visit in later years." The longest time Mom and Dad lived in one place was actually here in Santa Rosa on Dowling Court. Oh, the friendships there, spanning Grandma and Goppy's neighbors to new friends in the court. Talk about one big neighborhood family, from epic block parties to watching out for each other during the fires, to literally being among the many dear friends who Mary and I could call on if we needed help with something from Mom and Dad. Through the years, Mary and I would try to convince them to move closer to one of us, but they insisted they wanted to stay in Santa Rosa. Just 2.5 years ago, Mom and Dad made the decision it was time to face the fact that maintaining the house and managing all that came with their increasing health struggles, it was time to move to a senior community. Their biggest concern was that they would lose all their friends and would feel alone. Well, of course, that was not what happened. Not only did their friends continue to make time to visit them, their new neighborhood at Brookdale Pollen Creek quickly became a new extension of their group of friends that were more like family. Dad, of course, was Dad, arrived with his tendency to tease people on full display. Most people took a bit to get used to his antics, but not Roberto. Nope, the director of dining services at Pollen Creek. We have asked Roberto to share his own little story that paints a perfect picture of the quintessential Herbie. I haven't seen Roberto. There you are. Come on up.
Hi, my name is Roberto, and I'm friends with Herb and Georgia. And I'm so grateful to be part of this day celebrating this incredible life. How lucky I am to have someone to make saying goodbye so hard. I've always remembered Herb's love, kindness, and sense of humor. When they first moved to the community, Herb was going to get his mail after dinner. He was going a little too fast on his scooter. And I said, "Excuse me, sir, you're going a little too fast." He said, "Who are you, the scooter police?" And I said, "Well, I am now, and you will get a ticket." He said, "How much?" I said, "A lot." We used to go back and forth. I give him an amount, how much he owes. We go back and forth negotiating. And at the end of the negotiation, I'm the one who owes him money. So that was Herb. For many months, we go back and forth with the same joke. One day he said, "I have your money." I'm still not sure if it's real, but he gave me this bill. The bank is not taking it. But he said it's worth a lot of money. Herb was kind, generous, and compassionate person. He always had a smile on his face and willing to make people laugh, except when I had cauliflower on the menu. He didn't like that. But that was Herb. Thank you.
Thank you. So I think Dad met his match when he met Roberto. I remember actually calling Dad one day, and he was struggling with the computer, and I asked what the problem was. He said he was having problems with the printer. I asked, "What are you trying to print?" He said, "Money." I told him, "Dad, you can't do that." For the first 9 months, Dad made it clear to us he really didn't want to have visitors. It would be for the last 9 months. That did not apply to Roberto. He treasured his friendship like they were kindred spirits, so you can tell why. His visits would always leave Dad with a smile. Oh, here's another did you know. Dad really did not like cauliflower. Regardless, however we tried to hide it, he knew it was there. Dad worked for IBM for 36 years. Mom will tell you that IBM actually stood for I've been moved. We did pick up and move several times, including a 3-year stint in Poughkeepsie, a beautiful community in upstate New York. Dad did not want to be in New York. He made sure everyone knew he would do whatever it took to try to get transferred back to California. While Mom, Mary, and I loved the snow and getting to experience the 4 seasons, he didn't like having to scrape snow off the car or the summer humidity and missed California and our family back here. So did we, but he really wanted to find a way back here. So much so that we spent each of those summers driving back to California, then back to New York, taking a different route each trip, so we got the privilege of seeing a good portion of the country during each of those summers. Now let's just paint the picture of what that was like. A station wagon, no air conditioner, roll-down windows, and a car-top carrier that Dad had engineered and built to hold exactly 1 box for each of us, our camping gear, and ice chest. Yep, you heard that right. We would drive all day, then find a campground, to which Mom would also tell you, I insisted that the campground had to have flush toilets. We would set up camp, cook dinner, go to bed, get up, pack everything up, and do it again for 6 or 7 days straight until we reached California. We would spend several weeks with dear family, then turn around and head back to New York, taking a different route. Dad's early passion for photography at times derailed the plan. There it is. There's the infamous car-top carrier and the infamous station wagon. He would derail the plan as he would have an idea for the perfect photo. Just one of those many crazy ideas, including the plan to set up the still camera to capture the sunrise over the Grand Canyon in stop-motion photography. It was quite the thing. Quite an early morning. During our last conversation, Dad wanted to talk about what a great family we had, and we started to reminisce about our time in New York. I told him I was sorry he didn't really like being there, but I reminded him of all the wonderful people we met and great adventures we had. He did confess it really wasn't all that bad, and we did get to make some priceless memories as a family. The camping piece of those trips was not unusual for us. In the early years, we spent weeks each summer tent camping in either Kings Canyon or Richardson's Grove with the tenter side of the family. My mom was born and raised here in Santa Rosa, and in fact, Grandma and Goppy lived just a few blocks from here, right next door to Mom's sister and her family. Auntie Barbara, Uncle Don, and my cousins Margaret and Nancy. Our camping adventures would include the whole family, and boy, are the memories of those days priceless. Dad loved the outdoors and was always up for finding just the right spot to fish. As Mary and I got older, married, and had children, not only did our husbands embrace the camping way of life, they added a whole new level of fun for Dad. Then, when each of the 4 grandkids came along, it was also so fun to watch him prepare to introduce them to the art of fishing, complete with their first fishing pole and tackle box. Those were priceless times. Camping was an art that progressed through the years, and even included Dad being the district camping chairman for Campfire Girls. There's not enough time today to share the depth of stories that exist. Let's just say countless bear stories, the green tent, rain, swimming, hiking, fishing, campfire programs, banjo playing, photography, games around the campfire. Oh, and did I mention bear stories? There are just a few of the chapters of the camping stories that exist and will forever live in our hearts. Here's another Did You Know? Did you know the origin of why we wear red on Fridays? During Dad's time at IBM, he started a tradition that every Friday he would wear a red tie. As only Dad could do, he made it a thing. He would reward his fellow workers who would show up wearing a red tie on Friday. They would go to his office to show Dad their tie, and they would get jelly beans as a reward. After the 30-some-odd years of this red tie on Friday tradition at IBM, Dad retired. But no, the red tie on Friday did not go away. It just morphed and became you need to wear red on Fridays. I'm not sure anyone who has spent any chunk of time with Dad would not know that the Friday Red Day rule. I have to admit, it was difficult for me to comply once I started college. UCLA Bruins do not wear red, especially when there's a football, basketball, soccer, or gymnastics happening on a Friday. Not going to happen. Sports. Well, you might imagine with a house full of girls, Dad might be overruled in the sports category, but oh no. We grew up going to every high school football game, including the away games. Dad would drive home from LA just in time for us to hop in the car, go through McDonald's drive-thru, order fries with no salt, just to make sure the fries were piping hot. And we would hit the road. Through those years, we learned all about the game. Truly a life skill that has served us well. And as Jerry will attest, the passion for football still runs deep in my blood. Grandkids, what pure joy they brought Dad. Mary and Craig's daughter, Chelsea, arrived first, and Dad proudly took on the title Grandpa. With each grandchild that was born, Dad would remind us for the first few months he didn't hold what he called blobs. He knew it made us giggle, and we would ultimately get him to agree we would take a photo of him holding them. There's a slide here that, look at his face. And we would convince him it was okay, that they weren't going to break. Next was the arrival of Jerry and my son, Christopher Joseph, to whom Dad became Gramps. My nephew, Scott, then our youngest son, Corey, rounded out his treasured 4 grandkids. Each of the grandkids were involved in either campfire or Boy Scouts. Dad had the opportunity to mentor and encourage them in their journeys, especially as it related to camping and electronics, as they each worked hard and accomplished earning the highest award possible. Chelsea, the Wohelo Medallion, and Chris, Scott, and Corey, the Eagle Scout Award. He was so proud of each of them, not just for the awards or college degrees that they earned, but for their commitment to service, working hard, and the respect they showed to others. He loved welcoming Caleb, Cassie, and Gwen to the family, as well as the 4 great grandkids, Clayton, Clara, Carter, and Cohen. I could talk for days about my sweet daddy. Today, we all share this space, feeling all the feelings: laughter, tears, thankfulness, and sorrow. There are 4 little ones here today, for which this day is likely a bit overwhelming. Clayton, Clara, Carter, Cohen, I know someday you will fully realize just how special it is that you got to spend time with your Gramps, and in turn, just how much Gramps loved spending time with you. Whether it was helping him put on his shoes, or reading him a story, or making funny faces on the portal and seeing him laugh, or sending him a postcard, or praying for him. Those moments and memories will live deep in your heart. Having a relationship with your great-grandparents is truly a gift. You have seen the tears and heard lots of stories. It's a lot to take in. I hope you look around today and realize all these people are here because they loved your Gramps, and he loved you so much. What I hope you will all hear today is the undercurrent of who my dad was. The sum of our life comes down in part to the impact you have while on this earth, the choices you make, the lasting memories you make with others, what you leave them with to laugh about, what you learned and what you taught others, and how you made people feel. I love this quote by Maya Angelou. I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. How will you live your life differently because you knew my daddy? Will you wear red on Friday? Will you put your own needs aside to help someone in need? Will you volunteer in your community, your church, not just show up, but really serve with your heart? Will you spend more time with your kids or grandkids? Will you lightheartedly tease someone and make them smile? Will you lead with love? As you listen to the reflections from the next few people, because I figured you're probably tired of me talking now, so some other people can share stories. Consider how you are going to leave here today, inspired by my daddy. As Roberto said, how lucky are we to have known someone so special to make saying goodbye so hard. Thank you all for loving my daddy.
Here's my partner. I'm surprised to have her come up. Hey, sweetheart. Nice to see you. I'm Ted Williams, and this is my partner in crime on the microphone a lot of times, Evelyn, from the California Junior Miss program and the Distinguished Young Women program, which we got to serve in for many, many years as partners at the mic and emceeing it. It was always fun. Now this is about Herb, and Herb and I got a chance to be really good friends on there, and we could always tell that our jokes and things were working because we could hear Herb laughing from somewhere, up in the catwalk, running the spot, backstage. We said, okay, it's working. Yeah, it's good, he's here. Today, we're actually going to give the reflections from Casey Lesky, who is the state chairman now for this program, who couldn't be here today, but asked us to be able to pass those along to him. Welcome.
To you too.
Yeah, it's good to see you.
Me too.
Yeah, we should catch up.
Yeah,
okay,
let's
good.
do it.
Yeah, we became really great friends here in Roanoke Park and in Bakersfield, and you served as California's Junior Miss, which was awesome. Still a Junior Miss at that time. Yeah. Don't get ahead of yourself here. Okay. Wearing the red on Fridays, yeah, that was a special thing. I found that out the first Friday that I was there, and I got handed a volunteer shirt that was red, and I got chastised for not wearing red. I also found out there's other colors, so the color groups. So I wore something that had gold and blue and red, just to make sure that we covered all the color groups there. But I still wear red on Friday almost every single week. And just a personal reflection, one of the things that made me laugh, we were talking about kids when, Chris and Corey, when you were young. My kids were young, same age. We all visited Southern California, and Herb and Georgia were sitting at the table. They all sat around the table after dinner. And my kids and Chris and Corey found the delight in finding ways of stacking Beanie Babies on Herb. They were stealthily walking around and coming up and giggling, and Herb knew it totally. And by the end of that dinner at that time, he probably had 25 or 30 Beanie Babies on him and acted like he didn't know they were there. And the kids thought they had him, which was just awesome. And as we're talking about the living Christmas tree, Herb had also talked me into being the roving camera guy here. So when you saw the live programs of the singing Christmas tree, that was my job, was to crawl up all around here and take pictures and get a good camera view of all the people in the orchestra. That was my job. And I could hear Herb crackling in on the headphone set saying, "Get a good shot." "Yeah, okay, that'll work. All right. All right, hold that shot. And he'd go to me, and then he'd go to somebody else. It was just like NBC in here. It was pretty amazing. These are the words from Casey. And we're just going to share it. Why don't we just do a paragraph each? It would be kind of fun. Today, we're gathering to honor Herb Hogle, who dedicated over 35 years of his life to the distinguished young women, formerly known as the Junior Miss program. For those unfamiliar with California's Junior Miss, or Distinguished Young Women of California, it's a nonprofit scholarship program that empowers young women through transformative life, skills workshops, the cumulative showcase, and by providing thousands of dollars in cash and college scholarships each year.
So Herb's journey with the program began in 1975 when his daughter Mary was selected as Fountain Valley's Junior Miss. His other daughter then followed in Mary's footsteps and participated in the program in 1979. Donna was selected as the Huntington Beach and California representative. After Donna's year as California's Junior Miss, Herb stepped into the role of Huntington Beach local chair and soon joined the California State Committee. Over the decades, he served in numerous capacities at both the local and state levels. As a member of the California Program's Board of Directors, on various local and state program committees, as the Northern California Regional Director, and as a vital member of the production crew, which is what we all hold very near and dear in our memories, for local and state programs. And in 1992, Herb was inducted into the California Program's Hall of Fame, a testament to his extraordinary contributions and service.
And that was about the time that Casey met the great and powerful Herb Hogle. There's a small group of people who can say they grew up volunteering with the program, and Casey says that she was one of the lucky few, but considers herself even luckier because she got an extra set of grandparents out of the deal, Gummy and Gamps, or Georgia and Herb, as many of you know them. Growing up on the production team was one of the best experiences that Casey can remember in her life, and Herb was at the heart of it.
Being a child on a production crew can be challenging. You want to help, you don't really know how, and you still want to have fun in the process. Not all adults are willing to take time to work with kids, but Herb always did. He went out of his way to teach, include in planning, and let everyone build and execute various set pieces and props. As a child, I was convinced Herb was truly the great and powerful Herb Hogle. With his wealth of stories, knowledge, and that magical sparkle in his eye, he ensured we felt included, had fun, and learned something new every step of the way. Personally, I'll add too, he had a wonderful way of just making you feel like a normal human. Like we would be there on stage, and I'm in this sparkly gown, and then I'd be backstage, and be like, all right, hot stuff, here's a hammer, get to work.
Yeah, he found jobs for everybody. Really good at delegating, but he was the driving force behind all of it. There's been quite a few years in the California program history where the production crew is largely made up of teens and young adults. And Casey said she was always proud of us in those moments, but looking back, she's even more grateful. There's a reason that they learned so much at a young age, and that was because of Herb. He believed in us wholeheartedly, giving us the confidence to believe in ourselves, whether it was teaching us to use power tools, calculate measurements, write scripts, create cue sheets, or, Casey's a personal favorite, properly roll up an electrical cord. It's been a lesson we've probably all gotten from him. And when you don't do it right, he lets you know. Herb's lessons taught us so much will always remain with us. Most importantly, Herb taught us how to treat others. He made our crew into a welcoming family, ready to embrace new members, a legacy that Casey strives to carry forward as now overseeing the production crew.
Donna recently shared that growing up, she didn't feel the need for many friends because her family was her friends, and so much more. I now understand this completely, Casey says. Her parents, Donna's parents, became her best friends too. In high school and in college, Casey spent every summer with Herb in Georgia at the state program, and during the rest of the year, she spent much of her time serving on Sonoma County's local program committee with them. When they weren't planning for Sonoma County, they were volunteering production services to other programs, hanging out, or grabbing lunch, or Herb's favorite, that slice of pie. Casey says, "I can't think of a time in my life when I laughed or learned more."
Herb's contributions to the Junior Miss and Distinguished Young Women program extended far beyond the thousands of young women who participated during the time he volunteered. He shaped the program into what it is today, profoundly impacting the hundreds of volunteers he served alongside. Through the lessons and laughter he shared, his gifts continue to inspire current volunteers to nurture the next generation of young women in the program and to inspire the next generation of volunteers.
So on behalf of us, of Casey, Casey's family, and the Distinguished Young Women of California program, we thank Herb for all he gave to the program, its participants, and its volunteers. So as you look down from that great production team in the sky, know that we'll be thinking of you fondly, and of course, wearing red.
It's been a privilege to know Herb. He has changed our lives for sure. I think of him all the time. Been my honor to have helped to serve the family in the last few years. Herb also served me, correcting me on the news stories that I got wrong. And he was not shy about that at all, but I did appreciate that. But thanks for sharing Herb with us, Georgia. Yeah, Donna, Mary, thank you so much. Thanks for having us.
Hello, everyone. I'm Corey. I am the youngest, and I was always reminded, the youngest grandson of Gramps. In October of 2015, my Gramps got in a car accident. As hard as it was to hear about this news, it wasn't until a year later that we started to see the real damage done. The internal battle that manifested in a variety of physical ways for the rest of his life. Watching Gramps have episodes of anxiety and panic was the worst thing to see. In the moment, there was nothing we could do, but simply watch him tackle it, push through it, and get to the other side. The car accident was a trigger that began to reveal a lot more about what had been going on with his mental health through the years. It became very clear that stories he had shared with us through the years had layers of hardship that Gramps had faced. But after his car accident, getting into a car became something that quickly triggered emotion, anxiety, and panic, and the courage and strength it took for him to choose to overcome the mental battle was, to put it simply, hard to watch my Gramps go through. Now, growing up, my grandma and grandpa, Gummy and Gramps, would take their blue Lincoln town car from Santa Rosa to Southern California and Spokane. It was a perfectly packed blue Lincoln, Gummy. We all have such fond memories of that blue Lincoln. I can hear the sound of the lock and the unlock. I can visually see the numbers being punched to unlock the doors. I remember that front row middle seat. And how about that trunk? The biggest trunk a sedan has ever seen. In the words of my brother Chris, every time that blue Lincoln pulled up to my house, knowing who was in it, my grandparents, Gummy and Gramps. I knew good times were coming. But not only was the blue Lincoln just a sign of the presence of Gummy and Gramps, it was also a place where there was no moment wasted. The blue Lincoln was the home of Gramps' infamous big dog talks. Now, these big dog talks would start from the moment the car was put into drive, and Gramps would bring up a very deep topic. And he would ask us grandkids to share our opinion. The catch was, Gramps would always take the other side of the opinion. These were light topics like philosophy, immigration, voting rights, religion, the state of the economy. And some of us loved it, and some of us had a really hard time. Looking back, those big dog talks were some of the most educational and impactful conversations I have ever had, all thanks to the big dog himself. Now that you hear all that, you can understand the impact that it had on our family when the realization hit that after Gramps' car accident, we may never have another big dog talk in the blue Lincoln or see that car roll up to our house ever again. His fear of the car was really severe. Doctor's appointments and coming here to church were pretty much the only things he would get in the car for. And staying near 1986 Dowling Court was ideal for Gramps. Obviously, this put some limits on Gramps, but watching him go through these mental health episodes was not something any of us wanted for him. So limiting car travel just became the norm. Now let's fast forward 3 years to 2018. Car travel was still not ideal, but Gramps became interested in the Tony Award-winning musical Hamilton. In typical Gramps fashion, simply seeing the show or watching it on Disney Plus was not an option for him. No. Instead, he spent nearly a whole year going line by line through the entire script and lyrics of the show with my Auntie Mary. They did a total deep dive into the American history that Lin-Manuel Miranda so brilliantly and marvelously wove into every spoken word of the brilliant stage piece. We're talking reading encyclopedias, watching documentaries, taking a fine-tooth comb through every detail of the show because, in his words, if I ever get the chance to see the show, I want to be able to understand what's going on. Now, a Wikipedia summary or SparkNotes would have been an offensive option to present to the man our family commonly refers to as the last true American. The ship is in the harbor now. Grow up to be a hero and a scholar. Put a pencil to his temple, connected it to his brain. In New York, you can be a new man. We're waiting in the wings for you. I take the children to church on Sunday. His hair has gone gray. Now, these indeed are some of the lyrics from Hamilton, but also some lines that reminded me of my Gramps. I can just imagine how he got a good smile out of studying these lines that painted a similar picture to his own life as a service member, a father, a hero and a scholar, a New York resident, a churchgoer, and a gray-haired man. Once Auntie Mary and Gramps read the final line of the show, which states, "Who tells your story?" Auntie Mary did some research to see when the Hamilton National Tour would come close to Santa Rosa. It was soon, and before long, tickets had been purchased for Gummy, Gramps, and Auntie Mary to drive to San Francisco to get to be in the room where it happens. As simple as it sounds, there was still a risk. Was Gramps going to be able to get in the car and be driven to the theater? When the show day arrived, we staged a classic Hogle surprise. Little did Gramps know, my mom and I would show up on Dowling Court and join them that evening at the theater. Before we left, Gramps was elated to have some of his family in Santa Rosa, but you could tell there was some cautiousness about the drive. I'm not here to over-dramatize the situation, but to cut to the chase that after a year of studying and with some of his family by his side, Gramps put on his theater best sweater, hopped in the car like a champ, and we made our way to the city. It took courage, dedication, strength, some deep breaths, and family. I'll never forget that day. My thoughts of each and every moment were being put through a Gramps filter. I was so proud of him for facing his fears and getting in the car that day. His smile and authentic joy radiated the whole evening. I remember getting into the theater and seeing his reaction to the set design was special. I remember thinking, Gramps could have made this set for Junior Miss if he wanted to. But overall, I was so proud of my Gramps. Remember how I said the blue Lincoln was a place where no moment was ever wasted? On that day, Gramps created a moment for himself that did not go to waste. Against all odds, he resiliently pushed through his fear of driving in the car and created a moment, a memory, that he could reflect back to when an anxiety flare-up would come on. And it's moments just like that that have all of us have collected through the years that we will forever be able to reflect back on, all because of my Gramps. Gramps was a brilliant storyteller. True or not stories, but stories nonetheless. He was a brilliant storyteller, a moment maker, and a memory creator. My final goodbye to Gramps was a perfect memory that I will hold on to for the rest of my life. My parents and I said our goodbyes to he and Gummy at their Pollen Creek dormitory. Gramps in his walker made his way to the window overlooking the parking lot where we were getting in the car. I was already emotional saying goodbye, not knowing if it would be my last. And as I looked up to the window with tears in my eyes, there he was, standing upright in his flannel and blue jeans, his 14 perfect hairs in perfect position, with one hand on his walker and the other in a joyfully aggressive wave. That wave emulated the one he would give us out the driver's side window of their blue Lincoln as we raced their car up the street when he and Gummy would make their way back to Santa Rosa after visiting our family in Southern California. That wave was always paired with a smile of gratitude, love, peace, and glee. As I looked up one final time into the window that day in the parking lot, tears streaming down my face, I received his gratitude, love, peace, and glee right back. On April 9th of this year, after hearing Gramps had moved to heaven, I turned on the song, "It's Quiet Uptown" from Hamilton. If I could spare his life, if I could trade his life for mine, he'd be standing here right now, and you all would smile, and that would be enough. That's a quote from that song. We all smile at just the thought of the great Herb, and we always will. Everyone in this room has been impacted by my Gramps in some way, and I'm so confident that when you shared space with him, you did indeed smile. That smile, that impact is forever unforgettable. Now, the end of life is the wildest thing to me. It's not like anything else. There's no one that can tell you what it's like. There's no two moments the same. The fears, worries, and anxieties surrounding the unknown can feel helpless. For a man who was already living with mental illness in various forms, the end of Gramps' life was exactly how I imagine he planned it. In a moment of distraction of everyone that was with him, he peacefully took his final breath alone. Gramps lived his life in a way that was always thinking of others, taking jobs to support his family, being all of our number one cheerleaders in everything we have done. Wohelo Medallion and 3 Eagle Scout ceremonies, our graduations, weddings, and birthdays, camping trips and haunted houses, school plays for Chelsea, band concerts for Scotty, making movies with CJ. Our Gramps was always there for us. In his final moment, he was still thinking of those around him, ensuring no one had to witness the mystery that is the end of life. But there is one thing through it all that was never a mystery to him. He knew exactly where he was going after his final breath. He had dreams about it even. And this is why many of us today can smile. I'm sure when Gramps met up with his Jesus, I'm confident he heard the words, "Well done, my good and faithful servant." And when Jesus gestured the gates of heaven open for Gramps and asked, "Would you like to come in?" with a big smile on his face, a smile of gratitude, love, peace, and glee, I'm confident that my Gramps replied, "That would be marvelous." Now, as the curtain falls on this chapter, I stand here to close these words today, inspired by that day we sat in the theater watching the spotlight fade on center stage at Hamilton. So, Gramps, remember the final words of the show? Who tells your story? Well, Gramps, I promise we will tell your story. Thanks.
For those of you who don't know me, I served as pastor here for 26 years prior to my retirement 17 months ago. And I come here today as one of Herb's friends to share 2 short stories. Herb and I logged many hours together here at the church, not only because of he and Georgia attending worship here, but also because he was the primary sound tech for a number of years before we developed a full team. And that meant he did most of the weddings, most of the memorials that were here. And it was never just Herb. It was always Herb and Georgia. She was always by his side, always sitting next to him while he worked the sound tech. And then, as you've heard, the production of the Singing Christmas Tree, she was also right beside him working the entire evening, all 3 times. He also was the project manager for the lighting in this church, which was dramatically upgraded as a result of the work that he put in. Herb enjoyed life, and he found ways to invite others to share his enjoyment. And one of the ways he did that was that lurking sense of humor. The kind of humor that was a lot more came through storytelling and self-deprecation than making fun of other people, although there was some of that too. For Herb, it was a way for him to connect with people and to break down barriers of formalities in order to promote a more comfortable conversation and a long-lasting friendship. Poet and playwright Oscar Wilde once quipped, "Life is too important to be taken seriously." And I think Herb shared that sentiment. He was more interested in others and finding ways for them to enjoy the moment and to lighten their load and the burden they might have been carrying. One time after I had made a blunder, which didn't happen too often, during worship, I was about to introduce someone who was going to be praying with people after the service, and I looked at the person and could not remember their name for the life of me. And Herb met me at the back and said, "Let me tell you about the time Georgia and I were at an IBM social event, and my friends are gathered around me, and I'm talking, and suddenly I realized I hadn't introduced Georgia." And he said, "Oh, let me introduce to you my wife." And he said nothing came out. He could not remember her name. And I had to look at Georgia to see if it was true, and she just was nodding her head. But that was just like Herb, to take what I was feeling like, oh, I blew it, to say, hey, I've been there too. Sometimes his humor was a little bit more mischievous in the way his face reveals. You can see it both in his eyes and smile, even in the picture that's in front of you. It happened on a time when he was going to have an outpatient surgery, and Colleen and I drove to Sutter's outpatient surgery to meet he and Georgia there in order to pray with them beforehand. But soon after we got there, they called Herb in for some pre-op. And it's like, oh, okay, we better wait. And the nurse said, we'll come back and get you and you can pray with him inside. And so we waited, and then all the pre-op was done, and the nurse comes to get us and meets us at the door and says, before you come in, we need you to put on these hair nets because of the type of surgery Herb is having. And I thought, I'm like, it was for his knee or something. It was something like, why do you need a hairnet? And then as we walked in, nurses at the nurse station were looking at us, and kind of smiling. And I noticed the nurse that came to get us didn't have a hairnet on. And we turned the corner and walked into the holding area where Herb and Georgia were, and they had the biggest smile on their face and said, welcome to the party. And of course, Herb didn't have a hairnet on. He had rigged the whole thing. Which reminds me of that great proverb, a cheerful heart is good medicine, but a crushed spirit dries up the bones. And Herb knew how to have a cheerful heart. In the same way that he spoke about many things, the way he typified his faith was in a story. During one of our church retreats held at Westminster Woods, we had made part of the whole program, part of what we designed was for people to be able to use the facilities, including the zip line, in the afternoon. And it runs through an opening of trees that you access by climbing up along a path that hugs the ridge of a hillside until you reach the starting point, which is a platform built into a tree. But even to get to the platform, you had to cross a rope, and much kind of like the way a tightroper would walk, but you don't have a balance beam. They had other ropes, and you held onto a rope above, and the rope was on your feet, so you had to cross this way. So even the getting to the platform was like, okay, this takes a little more courage than I expected anyway. But Herb made his way there and got to the platform, but then, the staff member who was there was trying to tell him what was going to happen and had hooked up his his harness and hooked it up to the zip line and said, "Whenever you're ready, I just got the signal from down below, you can take off." And Herb didn't move. He and I have this common feeling about free falling, and that's the first thing that happens. You let go, and it's a drop. And he wasn't quite ready for that. And so the staff member began to talk to him a little bit and try to reassure him it was okay, that that even a 5-year-old had just done it, just a few people before him, and some things like that. And after a few minutes, the staff member had to say, "Well, there's only 2 ways down. You either have to go on the zip line or go back the way you came." And when Herb didn't like that option, he finally decided and took the leap. And as the free fall happened, when he got to the bottom of the free fall, he said, "I heard a voice." And it was Jesus. And he said, "Herb, you can trust me." And with that, Herb said, tears began to fall down his face the entire time that he made it to the end. And the whole way down, he was crying not from fear nor a thrill of the ride, but the assurance that he had heard from his Lord. And he carried that with him and trusted that, particularly in his last days as he began to anticipate he would hear that voice again. "You can trust me." Whenever we would finish a certain memorial, the ones that Herb enjoyed the most, when I would walk to the back and hand him my microphone, he would say, "These are the best memorials." And I already knew why, and I would indulge him and say, "Why is that, Herb?" And he goes, "Because they played the Navy hymn." He says they knew. I said, it's a hymn, right, Herb? It's called "Eternal Father, Strong to Save." The Navy co-opted it. And he goes, "That doesn't matter." Well, you're invited to join along. It's hymn number 562, but we couldn't get the Navy chorus to come, so we did the next best thing, and it's a production that will be presented to us in video form. But then following that, there's another video, a most poignant video of Herb performing for us. So please participate and enjoy what's coming.
Let us pray. Lord, life is about letting go, and it is hard to let go of someone we love so dearly and who has made such a great contribution into each of our lives. We say thank you for sharing with us Herb, for all that was in him that was kind and faithful and good, and in the way in which he was able to manifest his many gifts, the way he chose to live his life with a sense of responsibility, devotion, and delight in his family. How he used his talents, curiosity, skills, humor, and his natural ability to extend the love of Jesus to others. We thank you for the simple things, like the brightness of his eyes, his sense of wit and humor, the warmth of his smile, and his sincere and earnest interest in others. And Lord, we ask that you would give your support and care to Georgia, Mary, Donna, and their extended family. May they not only be a support to one another, but encourage others to surround them with the love you have shown us. We ask in the wonderful name of Jesus, who taught us to pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Let us lift our voices up to sing the song, There is a Higher Power. The lyrics are in the bulletin insert.
Where we belong.
Following the benediction, I will escort the family down the aisle, out the sanctuary, and into our fellowship hall, where all of you are invited to join us for a reception. As we leave here today, let us remember the laughter, the love, the joy Herb brought into our lives. May his memory continue to inspire and uplift us as we navigate this world without him. And as you go, may the love of God be with you always. May you be filled with patience and kindness. May you be strong in faith, courageous in your trials, and hopeful for the future. And may you preserve in love, trusting in God's grace to guide you through all things. Amen.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, America's newest singing sensation, the line